Sophia Hale, a black delivery girl, braked her worn-out bicycle right in front of the towering Bel-Air mansion, glancing at the 24 cups of coffee in her bag and silently hoping the tip would be enough to fix her bike. Then suddenly a desperate scream shattered the quiet. Through the window, she spotted nearly 20 doctors, crowding around a dying man frozen, unsure what to do. Acting on instinct, Sophia ran to the front door with nothing but her old torn bag in hand. But what she did in the next 2 minutes would leave everyone inside stunned. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from. And subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. Sophia's legs burned as she pedaled up the hill toward Bel-Air. The old steel frame bike groaned with every push, its worn seat digging into her thighs, brakes squealing whenever she had to slow down. 24 cups of premium coffee sat in the carrier behind her, carefully balanced in their expensive holders. She'd packed them herself at 5 a.m. after clocking out from her warehouse shift at 2. 3 hours of sleep. That's all she'd gotten. Her eyes stung from exhaustion and her breath came out in visible clouds in the cold Los Angeles morning. Winter here wasn't like real winter, not that she'd ever seen snow, but it was cold enough to make her fingers numb, even through her thin gloves. "Don't be late, Sophia," she muttered to herself, repeating what her supervisor had told her yesterday. The Langford estate always tips well, but they expect precision. Not a minute late, not a single spill. She checked her phone. 7:43 a.m., 17 minutes to spare. The mansions grew larger as she climbed higher, their gates more imposing, their lawns more perfect. This wasn't her world. South LA was her world, cramped apartments, sirens at night, neighbors who knew each other's struggles because they were all fighting the same battle just to survive. But Grandma Marin had taught her something important. If you can help someone, you help them. Doesn't matter if they're rich or poor, black or white, stranger or friend. If you have the ability to ease suffering, you do it. Sophia shook her head, trying to focus. She needed this delivery to go smoothly. $22 plus whatever tip they gave her. Maybe enough to finally fix the bike's brakes properly, instead of just tightening them every few days. The Langford mansion came into view, and her breath caught despite herself. It looked like something from a movie, cream-colored stone, tall windows, perfectly trimmed hedges, a circular driveway that probably cost more than every car in her neighborhood combined. She guided her bike toward the service entrance on the side where the delivery instructions had specified. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the coffee carrier. Not from the cold anymore, from nerves. Then she heard it. A scream, raw, desperate, the kind that made your blood run cold because you knew someone was dying. Sophia froze the coffee carrier halfway off her bike. The sound came from inside the mansion, from somewhere on the second floor. Through one of the windows, she saw movement. Lots of people in white coats rushing around. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her head, "If you can help." But what could she do? She was just delivering coffee. These people probably had the best doctors money could buy. Who was she to interfere? Another scream, weaker this time. More desperate. Sophia set down the coffee carrier and moved closer to the window. She had to stand on her tiptoes to see inside. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The scene inside made her stomach drop. A man, elderly, gray-haired, wearing silk pajamas, was convulsing violently on a massive 4-poster bed. She counted quickly. 20 people in white coats surrounded him. Doctors, nurses, all of them looking panicked, helpless. Equipment beeped frantically. Someone was shouting orders. Nothing was working. Sophia's mind raced. She'd seen something like this before. 2 years ago, back in her apartment building, Miss Sarah Williams, their downstairs neighbor, had collapsed just like this. The paramedics had been useless, pumping her full of medications that didn't help. But Grandma Marin had known. She'd recognized the signs immediately. Chemical poisoning, her grandmother had said, pressing herbs into hot water, creating a steam tent over Miss Williams' face. Not drugs, not a stroke, something in the air she's breathing. Sophia looked around the luxury bedroom through the window. Her eyes landed on something in the corner, a diffuser, one of those expensive aromatherapy machines. Even from outside, she could see the mist rising from it. Her pulse quickened. That smell. Even through the closed window, she caught a whiff of it when the breeze shifted. Floral, but wrong. Chemical underneath, trying to hide behind the scent of lavender. Fake essential oils. The cheap kind made with synthetic compounds and industrial solvents. The kind that poisoned Miss Williams. "Oh God," Sophia whispered, "that's what's killing him." She looked at her bike at the coffee carrier at the service entrance where she was supposed to leave the delivery and collect her payment. $22, her bike repair, her rent due in 5 days. Then she looked back at the window at the old man dying while 20 trained doctors stood around unable to save him. Grandma Morin's voice again. If you can help someone, you help them. Sophia made her decision in half a second. She left her bike at the service entrance, left the coffee sitting there, and ran toward the front door of the mansion. Her canvas bag bounced against her hip, the one she always carried, filled with the herbs and remedies her grandmother had taught her to keep on hand. The front door was massive, dark wood with brass fixtures. She grabbed the ornate knocker and pounded it hard 3 times. Nothing. She pounded again harder 6 times. The door swung open and a mountain of a man filled the doorway. He had to be 6'5", 250 pounds of muscle stuffed into a black security uniform. His name tag read Turner. Service entrance is around back, Turner said, his voice flat. He started to close the door. Sophia jammed her foot in the gap. Pain shot through her toes, but she didn't move. Someone's dying in there. 2nd floor, front bedroom. I can help. Turner's expression didn't change. We have 20 doctors handling this situation. We don't need... Your doctors don't know what's wrong with him. Sophia's voice came out, louder than she intended, sharp with urgency. She dug into her canvas bag and pulled out a bundle of dried herbs. I've seen this before. I know what's killing him. Please. Something in her voice must have gotten through, because Turner hesitated. His hand on the door stopped pushing. Look at me, Sophia said, meeting his eyes. Her hands were shaking, but her voice steadied. Do I look like I want to be here? Do I look like I'm trying to scam anyone? I'm a delivery girl on a bike. I should be dropping off coffee and leaving, but I can hear him screaming from outside, and I know what's wrong. Turner studied her face. His jaw worked like he was chewing over a decision. Please, Sophia said again, softer this time. If I'm wrong, throw me out. Call the cops. I don't care. But if I'm right and you don't let me try, that man dies. Another scream from upstairs, weaker now, fading. Turner stepped back and opened the door. You've got 2 minutes to convince Mr. Richard Langford not to have you arrested. Sophia didn't wait. She pushed past him into the marble foyer, her worn sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, and ran toward the curved staircase she could see at the far end. Turner's heavy footsteps pounded behind her, but he wasn't stopping her. The screaming had stopped. That was worse. Sophia took the stairs 2 at a time, her canvas bag slapping against her side, her breath coming in gasps. She'd never run so fast in her life. At the top of the stairs, she saw an open door, bright lights spilling out, voices raised in panic. She burst into the room. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. 20 people in pristine white coats surrounding a bed where an old man lay, jerking weakly foam at his lips, his skin an alarming shade of gray-blue. And standing at the foot of the bed was a man in his early 30s, tall and lean, wearing an expensive suit that hung wrong on him like he'd lost weight recently. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled, his hands gripping the bedpost so hard his knuckles had gone white. Richard Langford. She recognized him from the news. Tech billionaire. His father was Harrison Langford, the man dying in front of them. Who the hell are you? One of the doctors demanded. But Richard Langford was staring at Sophia, at her canvas bag, at her cheap jacket, at the desperation in her eyes that probably mirrored his own. I'm nobody, Sophia said, her voice cutting through the chaos. She stepped forward, ignoring the doctors moving to block her. But I know what's killing him, and if you give me 2 minutes, I can save his life. Richard Langford's bloodshot eyes locked onto Sophia's face. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The only sounds were the frantic beeping of monitors and Harrison Langford's labored, rattling breaths. Security, one of the doctors said sharply, a woman with silver hair and cold blue eyes. Her name tag read, Dr. Patricia Morrison, Chief of Neurology. Remove this person immediately. Turner's hand landed on Sophia's shoulder, but Richard raised his hand. Wait. Dr. Morrison's face flushed red. Mr. Langford, we cannot allow random civilians to interfere with... My father is dying, Richard said, his voice cracking on the last word. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, maybe weeks. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, his expensive suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. You've been here for 48 hours, 20 of the best doctors money can buy, and he's getting worse. So yes, I'm going to wait and hear what she has to say. Sophia's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone in the room could hear it. She'd never been in a place this nice. The bedroom alone was bigger than her entire apartment. Crystal chandeliers, silk curtains, carpet so thick her feet sank into it, and all these doctors staring at her like she was insane. Maybe she was. "It's in the air," Sophia said, forcing her voice steady. She pointed at the corner of the room, at the sleek white diffuser releasing delicate wisps of mist. "That machine. What's in it is poisoning him." 3 doctors laughed. Actually laughed. Dr. Morrison crossed her arms. "That's a $700 aromatherapy diffuser filled with pure lavender essential oil. It's been tested and certified. It's not poisoning anyone." "When did the seizure start?" Sophia asked, looking at Richard. He blinked, surprised by the direct question. "About 2 months ago. Small ones at first. We thought it was stress or maybe early signs of dementia, but they got worse. 10 days ago they became severe. That's when we brought in the medical team." "And when did he start using that diffuser?" Richard's face went pale. He turned to look at the machine in the corner, and Sophia watched the realization hit him like a punch to the gut. "I gave it to him 2 months ago. I thought it would help him sleep better. He'd been complaining about insomnia." The room went quiet, except for the machines. Sophia stepped closer to the bed, ignoring the doctors trying to block her path. She needed to be sure. "Can I smell it? The oil in the diffuser." Dr. Morrison moved to stop her, but Richard nodded. "Let her." Sophia crossed to the corner, knelt beside the diffuser, and leaned close. The smell hit her immediately, sweet and floral on the surface, but underneath that sharp chemical tang. The same smell she'd noticed through the window. The same smell that had filled Miss Williams' apartment before Grandma Moran figured out what was wrong. "This isn't real lavender oil," Sophia said, standing up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was clear. "It's synthetic. Probably made with cheap chemical compounds, could be diethyl phthalate or synthetic linalool or a dozen other toxins. They add artificial fragrances to make it smell like lavender, but when you heat it and breathe it in every night for weeks, it builds up in your system. It attacks the nervous system first, then the respiratory system." "That's absurd," Dr. Morrison snapped. "We've run every test imaginable. Blood work, MRI, CT scans, toxicology panels." "Did you test for synthetic fragrance compounds?" Sophia asked. The silence that followed told her everything. A younger doctor stepped forward, a woman with kind eyes and dark skin. Her name tag read Dr. Clara Wells. "Actually," she said, slowly looking at Dr. Morrison, "we didn't. Standard tox screens don't test for those unless specifically requested. We were looking for drugs, heavy metals, common poisons, not aromatherapy compounds." Dr. Morrison's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous. We're taking medical advice from a delivery girl." "I'm not giving medical advice," Sophia said, meeting the older doctor's hostile glare. "I'm telling you what I've seen before. 2 years ago, my neighbor had the exact same symptoms. Same seizures, same coloring, same foam at the mouth. The paramedics couldn't figure it out. My grandmother did. She's a..." Sophia hesitated, knowing how this would sound. "She's an herbalist. She's been treating people in South LA for 40 years. More skeptical looks. She saw it in their faces. This girl from the poor part of town, talking about folk medicine, expecting them to believe her grandmother knew something they didn't. But Dr. Wells was listening. She moved to the diffuser, bent down, and took a careful sniff. Her expression changed immediately. "There is a chemical smell. I didn't notice it before because the lavender is so strong, but she's right. There's something artificial underneath." "Even if that's true," another doctor said, "removing the diffuser won't stop the seizures. The damage is done. His nervous system is compromised. We need to intubate and start him on." "No," Sophia said firmly. Everyone stared at her. "If you intubate him now, you're just giving the toxins more time to work through his system. What he needs is clean air and something to help his body process what's already in him." Richard's voice cut through the argument. "What did your grandmother do for your neighbor?" Sophia turned to face him. His eyes were desperate pleading. "A billionaire's son reduced to begging for help from a 19-year-old girl on a bicycle. She cleared the air first, got rid of the source, and opened all the windows. Then she made a steam tent with specific herbs to help open his airways and support his liver. The liver is what processes toxins. And she used pressure points on his neck and wrists to help with circulation and to calm the nervous system." "Pressure points," Dr. Morrison said with contempt. "Unbelievable. Next, you'll tell us to balance his chakras." But Richard wasn't listening to her anymore. He was looking at his father, watching the weak convulsions, the labored breathing, the gray-blue tint to his skin. Sophia could see the calculation happening behind his exhausted eyes. His father was dying. Nothing these doctors were doing was working. What did he have to lose? Do it, Richard said. Mr. Langford, I must protest, Dr. Morrison started. I said do it. Richard's voice cracked through the room like a whip. Turn off that diffuser. Open the windows. Let her try. If my father dies anyway, at least I'll know we tried everything. The room erupted in protest, but Richard was done listening. He strode to the diffuser himself and unplugged it. He threw open the tall windows, letting in a rush of cold morning air. The silk curtains billowed inward. Sophia didn't waste time. She dropped to her knees beside her canvas bag and pulled out what she needed. Dried elderflower for respiratory support, milk thistle seeds for liver function, fresh ginger root for circulation. She'd prepared these yesterday like she did every week, never imagining she'd need them here. I need a bowl of very hot water, she said, and clean towels. Dr. Wells moved immediately. Martha, she called to someone in the hallway. Hot water and towels, now. Martha appeared in less than a minute, a woman in her 60s wearing a housekeeper's uniform, carrying a ceramic bowl of steaming water and a stack of pristine white towels. Her eyes went wide when she saw Sophia, recognition flashing across her face. Miss Sophia, Martha whispered, shocked. What are you doing here? You know her, Richard demanded. Martha nodded slowly. She helped me 6 months ago. I had terrible arthritis in my hands, couldn't even hold a dish without dropping it. She gave me some herbs and showed me exercises. The pain went away in 2 weeks. I tried to pay her, but she wouldn't take a cent. Just told me to drink plenty of water and get more rest. The room went silent again. Every eye in the room turned to Sophia with new interest, new calculation. She wasn't just some random girl anymore. She had a history of actually helping people. Dr. Morrison's face had gone rigid, but she didn't say anything. Sophia took the bowl from Martha with trembling hands. Thank you, she said quietly, then turned her full attention to Harrison Langford. Up close, she could see the severity of his condition. His lips were nearly purple, his breathing shallow and irregular, his fingers twitching with weak spasms. She worked quickly, crushing the dried herbs between her palms and dropping them into the hot water. The steam rose immediately, carrying the sharp, clean scent of elderflower and the earthier notes of milk thistle. She added the grated ginger last, and the steam intensified, filling the air around the bed with medicinal warmth. I need to create a steam tent over his face, Sophia said, looking at Dr. Wells, the only doctor who seemed genuinely open to what she was doing. Can you help me? Dr. Wells nodded, and together they arranged the towels to create a loose tent over Harrison's head and the bowl, allowing the herbal steam to concentrate around his nose and mouth without cutting off airflow completely. Now what? Richard asked. He'd moved to stand right beside Sophia, watching every movement with hawk-like focus. Now, I need everyone to be quiet for 2 minutes, Sophia said. She placed her fingers gently on Harrison's neck, finding the pressure points her grandmother had taught her, one on each side of the carotid artery, not pressing hard enough to restrict blood flow, but firm enough to stimulate the vagus nerve. These points help calm the nervous system and improve circulation. It's not magic. It's just understanding how the body works. She could feel Harrison's pulse under her fingertips, rapid, irregular, weak. His skin was clammy and too cold. But as the herbal steam filled his airways, she felt the slightest change, a steadying in his heartbeat, a deepening of his breath. Timer, she said to no one in particular. Someone time this. Dr. Wells pulled out her phone. Starting now. The room held its breath. 20 doctors, a billionaire's son, security guards in the doorway. Martha gripping her hands together in prayer, all of them watching Sophia's fingers on an old man's neck, watching the steam tent, watching for any sign of change. 30 seconds. No response. Harrison's convulsions continued, weaker now, but still present. Sophia moved her fingers to his wrists, finding the pressure points there. Her grandmother had called them life gates, places where you could influence the body's energy flow. Western medicine called them areas of high nerve concentration. Different words, same reality. 45 seconds. Still. No change. Sophia felt doubt creeping in. What if she was wrong? What if this wasn't the same thing that had affected Miss Williams? What if she just convinced a desperate son to waste his father's last moments on folk medicine that wouldn't work? 1 minute. Harrison's face was still gray-blue, but his breathing had changed slightly. The ragged gasps were evening out, becoming more rhythmic. Dr. Wells noticed it too. His respiratory rate is stabilizing, she said quietly, watching the monitors. 1 minute, 30 seconds. The color in Harrison's lips shifted from purple to a less alarming shade of blue-gray. His facial muscles, which had been locked in a rictus of pain, relaxed fractionally. Richard leaned forward, his hand gripping the bedpost so hard Sophia heard the wood creak. "Dad," he whispered. 1 minute, 45 seconds. The convulsions weakened further. Harrison's eyelids fluttered. Dr. Morrison moved closer despite herself, watching the monitors with disbelief written across her face. "His oxygen saturation is rising," she said, her voice stripped of its earlier contempt. "How is that possible?" 2 minutes. The convulsions stopped completely. Harrison's breathing settled into a slow, steady rhythm. The gray-blue tint to his skin began to fade, replaced by a healthier, more normal color. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. The monitor's frantic beeping slowed, steadied. Red warnings turned to yellow cautions. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. The yellow cautions turned to green. Normal ranges. Harrison Langford's eyes opened. They were unfocused and confused, but they were open. He looked at Richard, at the doctors, at Sophia's face, hovering over him with her fingers still on his wrists. "What?" Harrison's voice came out as a croak. "What happened?" Richard made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He dropped to his knees beside the bed and grabbed his father's hand. "You're okay. Dad, you're okay." The room erupted. Doctors rushed forward, checking monitors, checking vitals, talking over each other in medical jargon. Dr. Wells pulled out her stethoscope and listened to Harrison's heart, her expression one of pure astonishment. Sophia stepped back, her legs suddenly weak. She'd done it. It had actually worked. The herbs, the pressure points, the simple act of clearing the air, Grandma Moran's knowledge had saved a billionaire's life. Dr. Morrison was staring at the monitors like they'd betrayed her. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "The seizures should have caused significant brain damage. He should be unconscious for hours. He shouldn't be able to speak." "But he is speaking," Dr. Wells said quietly. She turned to Sophia, and there was something like awe in her eyes. "What you did just now, I've never seen anything like it. We need to test that diffuser oil immediately. If you're right about the synthetic compounds." "I am right," Sophia said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "My grandmother treated 3 other cases like this in our neighborhood over the past 5 years. All of them were using cheap essential oils they bought online or from street vendors. The FDA doesn't regulate aromatherapy products, so companies cut costs by using synthetic chemicals instead of real plant extracts. Most people don't have reactions because they don't use them consistently enough. But someone like Mr. Langford, who probably ran that diffuser every night for hours, breathing in concentrated synthetic compounds in an enclosed bedroom, it builds up, slowly poisons the nervous system." Richard was still kneeling beside his father's bed, tears streaming down his face, gripping Harrison's hand like he'd never let go. He looked up at Sophia, and the expression on his face was something she'd never seen directed at her before. Pure, absolute gratitude mixed with something else. Respect. Recognition. "A delivery girl on a bicycle," he said softly, echoing what Dr. Morrison had said earlier with such contempt. "With a canvas bag full of herbs. You saved my father's life when 20 of the most expensive doctors in Los Angeles couldn't figure out what was wrong." Sophia didn't know what to say to that. She picked up her canvas bag, suddenly very aware of how out of place she looked in this room full of wealthy people and medical professionals. "I should go. I left the coffee delivery downstairs. It's probably cold by now." "Wait," Richard said, standing up. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, trying to compose himself. "Please wait. I need to talk to you." But Sophia was already moving toward the door, her mind spinning. She'd done what her grandmother had taught her to do. She'd helped someone who was suffering. That was enough. That had to be enough. She didn't belong in this world of mansions and silk curtains and $700 diffusers. "Miss Sophia," Martha called after her. "Wait, please." Sophia stopped in the doorway, turned back. Martha was smiling, that same warm smile she'd given Sophia 6 months ago when her arthritis pain had finally faded. "Thank you," Martha said simply, "for being brave enough to help even when you were scared." Sophia nodded, her throat tight. Then she turned and walked quickly down the hall, down the curved staircase with its polished marble, through the foyer and out the front door into the cold morning air. Her bicycle was still at the service entrance where she'd left it, the coffee carrier sitting beside it. She didn't hear Richard Langford following her until he called out, "Please, just give me 5 minutes." Sophia stopped beside her bike, but didn't turn around. Her hands gripped the handlebars, knuckles white. She could hear Richard's footsteps on the gravel behind her expensive shoes crunching on the driveway stones that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I need to get back to work," she said, still not looking at him. "I have another delivery in 30 minutes. "I'll pay you whatever you would have made today," Richard said. His voice was closer now, maybe 10 feet behind her. 10 times that, 100 times. "Just please talk to me for 5 minutes." Sophia finally turned around. Richard Langford looked even worse in the morning sunlight, the shadows under his eyes deeper, the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. His expensive suit was wrinkled and hung on him like he'd lost 20 pounds recently. This wasn't the polished billionaire from magazine covers. This was a man who'd been watching his father die for weeks, helpless despite all his money. "I don't want your money," Sophia said quietly. "Then what do you want?" Richard asked. There was no arrogance in his voice, just genuine confusion, like he couldn't comprehend someone not wanting payment. Sophia thought about the question. What did she want? To pay her rent? To fix her bike properly? To sleep more than 3 hours a night? To not feel exhausted every single day? But those weren't things she could say to a billionaire standing in front of his mansion. "I want to go home," she said instead. "I want to check on my grandmother and make sure she's okay. I want to deliver this coffee, even though it's cold now, and I'll probably get written up for being late. I want my life to go back to normal." Richard ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Martha told me you helped her 6 months ago. Said you wouldn't take any money, just told her to rest and stay hydrated. Is that true?" Sophia nodded. Her hands were inflamed. She needed anti-inflammatory herbs, and she needed to stop overworking. "That's all." "How many others?" Richard pressed. "How many other people have you helped like that?" "I don't keep count," Sophia said, feeling defensive now. "My grandmother taught me that if you have knowledge that can ease suffering, you share it. You don't charge people who can't afford to pay. That's not what healing is about." Richard was quiet for a long moment, studying her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then he said something Sophia didn't expect. "I had everything, every resource. I hired 20 doctors, brought in the best medical equipment, spared no expense. And I couldn't save my father. You have almost nothing, a bike with bad brakes, a canvas bag, some dried herbs, and you saved him in 2 minutes. Do you understand how that makes me feel?" Sophia didn't answer because she didn't know what to say. She could see the shame in his face, the guilt, the confusion of a man who'd learned that money couldn't buy the thing that mattered most. "I need to understand," Richard continued, his voice urgent now. "Where did you learn this? How does someone your age know things that trained doctors don't?" "My grandmother," Sophia said. "She's been healing people in South LA for 40 years. She learned from her mother, who learned from her mother. It's just knowledge passed down, that's all. Nothing special." "It's incredibly special," Richard said firmly, "and it's knowledge that deserves to be recognized, studied, validated. Your grandmother should be teaching this to medical students. There should be research done on these methods. People should know." "People do know," Sophia interrupted. "Poor people know. People in my neighborhood know. We've been using these remedies for generations because we can't afford your 20 doctors and your expensive hospitals. Just because rich people don't know about it doesn't mean it isn't valuable." The words came out sharper than she intended, but Richard didn't look offended. Instead, he looked thoughtful. "You're right," he said after a moment. "You're absolutely right. I'm sorry." Sophia blinked, surprised. Rich people didn't usually apologize to delivery girls. "Let me ask you a different question," Richard said. "If money wasn't an issue, if you could do anything, be anything, what would you want?" The question hit Sophia like a punch. She thought about it every night when she collapsed into bed after her warehouse shift. Thought about it every time she delivered coffee to mansions while her own stomach growled. Thought about it every time someone in her neighborhood got sick and couldn't afford proper medical care. "I'd want to learn both ways," she said quietly. "The old knowledge my grandmother has and the new knowledge from medical schools. I'd want to prove that they can work together, that they're both valid. I'd want to be a doctor who actually understands that healing isn't just about pills and procedures. It's about seeing the whole person, their environment, their life. And I'd want to help people in my community who can't afford help. People like my grandmother's been helping for decades." Richard nodded slowly, like she'd just confirmed something he'd been thinking. "How far did you get in school?" Sophia's cheeks burned. "I dropped out junior year of high school. I had to work full-time when my grandmother got sick." I've been meaning to get my GED, but I'm always working and I'm too tired to study, and… She stopped herself. Why was she explaining her life to this stranger? What if I could give you that? Richard asked. What if I funded your education, GED, prep college, medical school, whatever it takes? What if I made it so you didn't have to work yourself to exhaustion just to survive? What if you could focus entirely on learning both types of medicine, traditional and modern, so you could help more people? Sophia stared at him. Why would you do that? Because I have hundreds of millions of dollars, Richard said simply. And this morning I learned that all that money couldn't save the person I love most in this world. A 19-year-old girl with a canvas bag full of herbs did what my money couldn't buy. That's not something I can forget. That's not something I should forget. I can't take charity, Sophia said, her pride flaring up. I won't be somebody's project. It's not charity, Richard said quickly. It's an investment. An investment in a better future, in knowledge that shouldn't be lost in someone who has the compassion and the intelligence to actually help people. My father is alive because you chose to help, even though you were scared. Even though you knew you might lose your job, might get thrown out, might get in trouble. You did it anyway because it was right. That kind of integrity is rare. It's worth investing in. Sophia's mind spun. Medical school. No more warehouse shifts. No more delivering coffee at dawn. Time to actually study, to learn to become the kind of healer she'd always dreamed of being. It was impossible. It was too much. I need to talk to my grandmother, she said. Of course, Richard said immediately. In fact, I'd like to meet her. I'd like to thank her personally for teaching you what she knows. Would that be all right? Sophia thought about her grandmother's tiny apartment, the peeling paint, the ancient furniture, the neighborhood with its sirens and broken streetlights. Then she thought about Grandma Morin herself, proud, sharp, no-nonsense, a woman who'd never bowed to anyone rich or poor. She'll want to meet you too, Sophia said. But I'm warning you now, she doesn't impress easily. She won't care about your money or your mansion. She'll want to know if you're serious, if your word means anything, if this is real, or just something you'll forget about in a week. Richard smiled for the first time since Sophia had met him. It was tired and sad, but genuine. I look forward to meeting her, he said. When can we talk today, tomorrow? Tomorrow evening, Sophia decided. That gives me time to explain everything to her, and it gives you time to think about whether you really mean this. Because if you're not serious, don't come. Don't get her hopes up. Don't get my hopes up. We're used to disappointment, but we don't need more of it. I'm serious, Richard said. His voice was steady, certain. I'll be there tomorrow evening. Just tell me when and where. Sophia gave him the address, watched his face carefully for any reaction to the rough neighborhood, any sign of judgment. But he just pulled out his phone and typed it in without comment. 6 o'clock, Sophia said. Don't be late. I won't be, Richard promised. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet. Sophia tensed, ready to refuse money again, but he just handed her a business card. That's my direct number. If anything changes, if you need anything before tomorrow, call me. Sophia took the card, feeling the expensive paper between her fingers. Richard Langford, CEO, Langford Technologies. A phone number with no area code, the kind reserved for very important people. Thank you, she said, because she didn't know what else to say. Richard nodded. Then he did something unexpected. He extended his hand to shake. Not the way someone might humor a child, but a real handshake equal to equal. Sophia shook his hand, feeling the firmness of his grip, seeing the respect in his eyes. Thank you for saving my father, Richard said quietly. I owe you everything. Then he turned and walked back toward the mansion, his shoulders a little straighter than before, some of the exhaustion lifted from his bearing. Sophia stood there for a long moment, holding the business card, trying to process what had just happened. Then she remembered the coffee delivery now completely cold, and the fact that she was definitely late for her next job. The next evening, Sophia paced in the small living room of her grandmother's apartment, while Grandma Morin sat in her worn armchair, watching with sharp, knowing eyes. The apartment was spotless. Sophia had spent the afternoon cleaning, not because she was ashamed, but because she wanted Richard Langford to see their home at its best. The furniture was old, but cared for. The walls were covered with photographs of family herbs hanging to dry from strings across the kitchen window, handwritten recipes taped to the refrigerator. Stop pacing, Grandma Morin said. Her voice was firm despite her age, the voice of a woman who'd commanded respect her entire life. You'll wear a hole in the floor. What if he doesn't come? Sophia asked, checking her phone for the 10th time in 5 minutes. What if he changed his mind? What if this whole thing was just something he said in the moment because he was emotional, and now that he's had time to think about it, then he's a fool, Grandma Maran said calmly. But something tells me he's not a fool. Sit down, child. You're making me nervous. Sophia sat on the old couch, springs creaking under her. She'd told her grandmother everything. The desperate run into the mansion, the confrontation with the doctors, the diagnosis, the 2 minutes and 20 seconds that saved Harrison Langford's life. Grandma Marin had listened without interrupting, her weathered hands folded in her lap, her expression unreadable. When Sophia finished, her grandmother had been quiet for a long moment. Then she'd said, "You did well. You honored what I taught you. You helped someone who needed help even though you were scared. That's what matters." But she'd also said, "If this man comes tomorrow and makes promises, we need to be very careful. Rich people make promises all the time. They mean them in the moment. But when the emotion fades and the reality of following through sets in, those promises often disappear like morning fog." At exactly 6 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. Not aggressive, not timid, confident and respectful. Sophia opened it to find Richard Langford standing in the hallway, and she almost didn't recognize him. He'd cleaned up, fresh suit, properly fitted this time. Hair combed, the exhaustion still present in his face, but managed better. Behind him stood an older man with silver hair, leaning on a cane, but standing upright with dignity. Harrison Langford, the man she'd saved just yesterday. He looked weak but alive, his color good, his eyes clear and focused. "Miss Sophia," Harrison said, his voice still a bit rough but strong. "I wanted to come personally to thank the young woman who saved my life." Sophia stepped back, holding the door open. "Please come in." They entered the small apartment, and Sophia watched their faces carefully for any sign of judgment, any subtle condescension. But Richard's expression was neutral, professional. And Harrison looked around with something like appreciation, his eyes lingering on the dried herbs, the photographs, the well-worn furniture that spoke of a life lived fully, if not expensively. Grandma Morin hadn't stood up. She remained in her armchair, regal as a queen on a throne, studying the two men with eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Marin," Richard said, crossing to her and extending his hand. "I'm Richard Langford. This is my father Harrison. We're both deeply grateful for the knowledge you passed on to your granddaughter. You saved my father's life." Grandma Marin shook his hand, her grip still firm despite her age. "Sophia saved his life. I just gave her the tools. She had the courage to use them." "May we sit?" Harrison asked, gesturing to the couch with his cane. "Please," Grandma Morin said. They sat, Richard helping his father settle onto the couch, careful of his still recovering body. Sophia remained standing by the door, nervous energy keeping her in motion. "Let's not waste time with pleasantries," Grandma Morin said bluntly. "Richard tells Sophia he wants to fund her education. I want to know why, and I want to know what you expect in return." Richard didn't look offended by her directness. If anything, he seemed to respect it. "I expect nothing in return except that Sophia pursue her education seriously and use what she learns to help people. As for why your granddaughter demonstrated knowledge that saved my father when 20 expensive doctors failed, that knowledge is valuable. It deserves to be validated, studied, integrated with modern medicine. And Sophia herself is remarkable. She has the intelligence, the compassion, and the courage that make great doctors. I have the resources to give her the education she deserves. It's that simple." "Nothing is that simple," Grandma Marin said. "Rich people don't hand out money without strings attached." "What are the strings?" Harrison spoke for the first time since sitting down. "Mrs. Marin, I'm going to be direct with you because I can see you're a woman who appreciates directness. Yesterday morning, I was dying. I felt my body shutting down, felt my mind slipping away, and I knew these were my last moments. Then your granddaughter burst into my bedroom like an avenging angel, argued with my doctors, and saved my life with herbs and pressure points I didn't even know existed. That kind of knowledge shouldn't be locked away in one neighborhood known only to people who can't afford traditional medical care. It should be everywhere. It should be taught. It should be respected." He paused, his breathing a bit labored from talking so much. Richard put a steadying hand on his father's shoulder. "I'm 90 years old," Harrison continued. "I've made a lot of money in my life, more than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And yesterday, I learned that all that money was worthless when it mattered most. Your granddaughter, who has almost nothing in material terms, had something more valuable than anything I own. I want to invest in that, not as charity, as recognition that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in knowledge, in compassion, in the ability to help others. Grandma Marin studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at Richard. What exactly are you proposing? Richard pulled out a folder from his briefcase and opened it. I've had my lawyers draft a trust document. It ensures funding for Sophia's complete education, GED preparation, college, tuition, medical school, and any additional training she wants to pursue. The funds are protected and can only be used for educational expenses and living costs while she's in school. When she graduates, she owes us nothing. She's free to work wherever she wants, help whoever she wants. There are no obligations, no contracts binding her to our family or our companies. He handed the folder to Grandma Marin, who took it and began reading with slow, careful attention. The room was silent except for the sound of pages turning and the distant noise of the neighborhood outside, cars passing someone's music, playing, children shouting in the street. This says she has to maintain part-time employment while in school, Grandma Marin said, looking up. Why? Because I insisted on it, Sophia said, speaking for the first time since they'd arrived. Everyone turned to look at her. I don't want to forget where I come from. I don't want to become someone who can't understand what it's like to struggle, to work, to be tired. If I'm going to be a good doctor for people in my community, I need to stay connected to what their lives are actually like. Richard nodded. I agreed to that condition because I think it shows wisdom beyond her years. Grandma Marin smiled just slightly. Good girl, she said to Sophia. Then back to Richard. And if Sophia decides halfway through that she doesn't want to be a doctor, if she wants to study something else, or decides this path isn't for her, the trust remains available for any legitimate educational pursuit, Richard said. If she wants to study botany, herbalism, nursing, public health, whatever she chooses, the only requirement is that she's genuinely pursuing education and self-improvement. And if she fails, Grandma Marin pressed, if she can't pass, her classes can't handle the workload, then we adjust, Richard said simply. Maybe she needs tutoring, maybe she needs a lighter course load, maybe she needs time off to recover and try again. Failure is part of learning. The trust doesn't penalize her for being human. Grandma Marin was quiet again, reading through more pages of the legal document. Sophia watched her grandmother's face, saw the calculations happening behind those sharp eyes, the decades of experience dealing with people who promised help and people who actually delivered it. Finally, Grandma Marin set the folder down on her lap and looked at Richard and Harrison. I have conditions, she said. Of course, Richard said. First, Grandma Marin said, holding up one finger. Sophia continues to live here with me while she's doing her GED and undergraduate work. I want her to have stability, to be grounded. When she goes to medical school, if she needs to move, that's fine. But for now, she stays home. Agreed, Richard said immediately. Second, Grandma Marin continued, holding up a second finger. Someone from my choosing a lawyer, I trust not yours, reviews this document and confirms there are truly no hidden obligations or strings attached, and that lawyer gets paid by you for their time. Done, Richard said. I'll provide a list of independent legal firms, and you can choose anyone you want. We'll cover all costs. Third, Grandma Marin said, her voice hardening. If you break this promise, if you pull funding or add conditions or try to control Sophia's choices in any way, I will make sure everyone knows. Every newspaper, every media outlet, every person in this city will hear about how Richard Langford promised to help the girl who saved his father's life and then betrayed her. Do you understand? Richard didn't flinch. I understand, and I accept that condition. Fourth and final, Grandma Marin said, Sophia doesn't owe you gratitude. She doesn't owe you loyalty. She doesn't owe you her time beyond her studies. You're giving her an opportunity, yes, but she earned this opportunity by having the courage and knowledge to save a man's life. This isn't charity. This is payment for value delivered. Are we clear? Perfectly clear, Harrison said, speaking up again. His voice was stronger now, more certain. Mrs. Marin, I like you. You're protecting your granddaughter the way I'd protect my son. You're smart to be suspicious of wealthy people bearing gifts. But I promise you on my life that Sophia saved, we will honor every word of this agreement. And if we don't, you have my permission to destroy our reputation in exactly the way you described. Grandma Marin studied him for another long moment. Then slowly she nodded. All right, we have a deal, but I'm still having my lawyer review this before Sophia signs anything. Absolutely, Richard said, visible relief crossing his face. Thank you. Thank you for trusting us enough to even consider this." Grandma Marin looked at Sophia, who'd been standing frozen by the door, barely breathing. "Come here, child." Sophia crossed to her grandmother's chair and knelt beside it. Grandma Marin took her hand, her weathered fingers wrapping around Sophia's smooth ones. "This is your choice," Grandma Marin said quietly. "Not mine, not theirs, yours. Do you want this? Do you want to walk this path?" Sophia thought about it, really thought about it. The years of study ahead, the exhaustion of juggling school and work, the fear of failing, of not being smart enough, of not belonging in those spaces. But she also thought about Mrs. Williams' arthritic hands healing, about Harrison Langford breathing steadily after she'd helped him, about all the people in her neighborhood who needed help and couldn't afford it. "Yes," Sophia said firmly. "I want this. I want to learn everything I can so I can help more people. I want to prove that your knowledge matters, that it deserves respect. I want to become a doctor who sees the whole person, not just their symptoms. I want this more than anything." Grandma Marin smiled, pride shining in her eyes. "Then you'll do it, and you'll do it well." She released Sophia's hand and looked back at Richard and Harrison. "We'll be in touch after my lawyer reviews the documents. If everything checks out, Sophia will start her GED preparation within the month." Richard stood and Harrison followed more slowly. "Thank you," Richard said again, "for this opportunity to make a real difference." "Don't thank me yet," Grandma Marin said. "Thank me when Sophia graduates medical school and starts actually helping people." As they walked to the door, Harrison paused and turned back. "Mrs. Marin," he said, "would you teach me about the herbs you use, about the knowledge you have? I'd like to understand what saved my life." Grandma Marin's expression softened just slightly. "Come back next week. We'll talk about herbs and healing. But fair warning, I'm a tough teacher." Harrison smiled. "I look forward to it." After they left, Sophia sat on the couch, still processing everything that had just happened. Grandma Marin watched her granddaughter with satisfaction. "You're going to change things, Sophia," Grandma Marin said quietly. "Not just for yourself, for everyone in this neighborhood who's ever been dismissed by doctors who didn't understand their lives. For everyone who needs help but can't afford it. You're going to build a bridge between two worlds." "I'm scared," Sophia admitted. "Good," Grandma Marin said. "Fear means you understand how important this is. Now let's get to work. Your studies start now." 4 years later, Sophia stood in the university library at midnight, surrounded by textbooks and research papers, her final undergraduate semester almost complete. She'd done it GED in 4 months associate degree with honors, now finishing her bachelor's in biology with a minor in ethnobotany. Medical school applications were already submitted. Everything was falling into place. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Is this Sophia Hale?" A man's voice, professional, strained. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Dr. Kim from County General Hospital. Your grandmother was brought in by ambulance 2 hours ago. She's had a severe stroke. You need to come now." The textbooks fell from Sophia's hands, pages fluttering across the library floor. She didn't remember grabbing her bag, didn't remember running to the bus stop, didn't remember the 30-minute ride that felt like 30 hours. All she could think was that this morning Grandma Marin had been fine. She'd made breakfast, complained about Sophia studying too hard, reminded her to drink water and eat properly. This morning, everything had been normal. The hospital was too bright, too loud, too full of that antiseptic smell that Sophia had come to associate with death. She found Dr. Kim in the ICU waiting room, a tired-looking man in his 40s, with kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. "Your grandmother suffered a massive stroke in the left hemisphere of her brain," Dr. Kim said, gently leading Sophia to a quiet corner. "The damage is extensive. She's on life support right now. A ventilator is breathing for her, medications are maintaining her blood pressure. We've done everything we can, but the reality is that the brain damage is severe. She's not conscious and likely won't regain consciousness." Sophia heard the words, but they didn't make sense. Grandma Marin was strong, sharp, invincible. She'd survived 68 years in a neighborhood that broke people had raised Sophia after her parents died, had taught hundreds of people how to heal themselves. She couldn't just be gone. "Can I see her?" Sophia's voice came out small, childlike. Dr. Kim led her to a room where machines beeped and hissed, keeping Grandma Marin's body alive through tubes and wires. The woman in the bed didn't look like her grandmother. Her face was slack, unresponsive, a breathing tube taped to her mouth, her eyes closed. The sharp, knowing gaze that had always seen right through Sophia's excuses and fears was gone. Sophia pulled a chair to the bedside and took her grandmother's hand. It was warm, but limp, no answering squeeze, no recognition, just flesh kept alive by machines. "I'm here, Grandma," Sophia whispered. "I'm here." 3 days passed. Sophia barely left the room, except when nurses forced her to. She held her grandmother's hand, talked to her about school and research and the paper she'd published on traditional herbal remedies that had gotten accepted into a peer-reviewed journal. She told her about the medical school interviews, about how excited she was to keep learning, to keep building that bridge between traditional and modern medicine. But Grandma Moran didn't respond. The machines kept breathing for her, kept her heart pumping, but the woman Sophia loved wasn't there anymore. On the 4th day, Dr. Kim came in with another doctor, an older woman with gray hair and gentle eyes. They asked Sophia to step into a consultation room. "We need to discuss your grandmother's care going forward," Dr. Kim said carefully. "The brain scans show that the damage is irreversible. She's not going to wake up. The ventilator and medications are the only things keeping her body functioning. At this point, we need to consider what she would have wanted. Would she want to be kept alive indefinitely on machines? Or would she want to be allowed to pass naturally?" Sophia felt anger surge through her chest, hot and fierce. "You're asking me to let her die?" "We're asking what she would have wanted," the other doctor said gently. "This isn't about giving up. It's about honoring her wishes." "She never told me her wishes." Sophia's voice broke. "We never talked about this because she was supposed to live forever. She was supposed to see me graduate medical school, supposed to be there when I opened a clinic, supposed to—" She couldn't finish. Tears came hard and fast, 4 days of holding them back, finally breaking through. The doctors gave her time to cry, didn't rush her, just sat quietly with tissues and water and the terrible patience of people who'd had this conversation too many times. When Sophia could finally breathe again, Dr. Kim said, "Take some time. Think about what you know of your grandmother, who she was, what she valued. Talk to people who knew her. Then let us know what you decide. There's no rush. We can maintain her support for as long as you need." But Sophia already knew. She just didn't want to admit it. She went back to her grandmother's apartment that evening, the first time she'd been there since the stroke. The place was exactly as Grandma Moran had left it, herbs hanging by the kitchen window, half-finished tea on the counter, a book open on her chair, like she'd just stepped out and would be back any moment. Sophia sat in her grandmother's chair and pulled out the old photo album from the side table. Pictures of Grandma Marin as a young woman, strong and fierce. Pictures of Sophia's mother, who died when Sophia was 5. Pictures of Sophia herself growing up, learning to identify herbs, practicing pressure points on dolls before she was brave enough to try on real people. On the last page, tucked into the binding, was a letter. Sophia's name on the envelope written in her grandmother's distinctive handwriting. Her hand shook as she opened it. "My dear Sophia," the letter began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're trying to decide what to do about my body. I know you, child. You're stubborn like me. You'll want to fight to keep me breathing no matter what, because you're not ready to say goodbye. But I need you to hear this. Don't keep me alive just because you can't let go. When my mind is gone, when the real me isn't there anymore, let me go peacefully. Don't trap my body here when my spirit is ready to leave. You've already given me the greatest gift I got to see you become the woman I always knew you'd be. Smart, compassionate, brave. I got to see you start building that bridge between worlds that will help so many people. That's enough. More than enough. When the time comes, let me go with dignity. And then keep going yourself. Keep learning, keep growing, keep helping people. That's what I want. That's my final wish. I love you more than words can say. You've been my greatest joy. Now it's time for you to fly without me. Be brave, my girl. Be brilliant. Be kind. Make me proud. All my love, Grandma Moran." Sophia read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face, her grandmother's words both breaking her heart and giving her permission to do what needed to be done. The next morning, she met with Dr. Kim and told him her decision. They scheduled the removal of life support for that evening, giving Sophia time to say goodbye. She sat beside her grandmother's bed for hours, holding that warm but unresponsive hand, talking about everything and nothing. She told her about the community health clinic she wanted to open in South LA, designed to combine traditional and modern medicine, where poor people could get care that respected both their culture and their needs. She told her about the research she wanted to do documenting traditional healing practices before they disappeared, proving their value scientifically. "You taught me that healing belongs to everyone," Sophia said through tears. "That it's not about money or prestige or fancy equipment. It's about seeing people really seeing them and giving them what they need. I promise I'll remember that. I promise I'll honor what you taught me." At 6 o'clock, Dr. Kim came in with a nurse. Richard and Harrison Langford arrived too. They'd stayed in touch over the years, with Harrison regularly visiting Grandma Moran to learn about herbs and healing. They stood quietly in the corner, respectful of Sophia's grief. "Are you ready?" Dr. Kim asked gently. Sophia nodded, unable to speak. They turned off the ventilator, removed the breathing tube, stopped the medications, and then there was just waiting. Grandma Maran's breathing was shallow, irregular, her body slowly shutting down without the machines to force it to keep going. Sophia held her hand, stroking her grandmother's hair, whispering all the things she wished she'd said more often. "Thank you. I love you. You saved me. You made me who I am." 10 minutes passed. 20. 30. Then impossibly, Grandma Moran's eyes opened. Just barely, just for a moment, but they were open and they were focused on Sophia's face. "Grandma," Sophia gasped. Her grandmother's lips moved. No sound came out because of the damage from the breathing tube, but Sophia could read the words, "Proud of you." Then a squeeze of her hand so faint, Sophia almost missed it. "I love you," Sophia whispered. "I love you so much. Thank you for everything." Grandma Maran's eyes closed again. Her breathing grew slower, more peaceful. Her hand relaxed in Sophia's grip. At 7:43 p.m., the same time Sophia had been pedaling toward the Langford mansion 4 years ago, Grandma Maran took her last breath and was gone. The room was silent, except for Sophia's quiet crying. Dr. Kim checked for a pulse, confirmed what they all knew, and gently covered Grandma Maran with a sheet. Richard approached carefully, putting a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "She was an extraordinary woman. She was everything," Sophia said, her voice broken. "She was everything, and now she's gone, and I don't know how to do this without her." "You do know," Harrison said, moving to stand beside Richard. His recovery had been complete, his mind sharp, his body strong despite his age. "She taught you how. Every lesson, every patient you watched her treat, every conversation you had, she was preparing you for this. She knew she wouldn't be here forever. She made sure you'd be ready." Sophia looked up at them through tears. "She wanted me to keep going. She left me a letter. She said to keep learning, keep helping people, keep building that bridge. She said that's what she wanted." "Then that's what you'll do," Richard said firmly. "And we'll help however we can." The funeral was held 5 days later at the small church in South LA, where Grandma Moran had spent decades providing free health advice after services. The church was packed, hundreds of people whose lives she'd touched, whose pain she'd eased, whose illnesses she'd helped heal. Mrs. Williams was there with her arthritic hands that worked perfectly now. Martha came from the Langford estate. Dr. Clara Wells attended, along with several other doctors who'd learned to respect traditional medicine after witnessing what Sophia had done. Richard and Harrison Langford sat in the back, quiet and respectful, their expensive suits standing out, but their grief genuine. Sophia gave the eulogy, her voice steady despite the tears. "My grandmother believed that healing was about more than medicine. It was about dignity, about respect, about seeing the whole person and honoring their knowledge and their experience. She taught me that poor people deserve the same quality of care as rich people, that traditional knowledge is just as valuable as modern science, and that if you have the ability to help someone, you help them. No conditions, no judgment, just compassion. I'm going to medical school next year. I'm going to become a doctor. And every patient I see, every person I help, will be a testament to what she taught me. Her legacy lives on through everyone in this room, through everyone she healed, through everyone she taught to heal others. She's not really gone. She's in all of us." After the service, after the burial, after everyone had left, Sophia stood alone at her grandmother's grave. The sun was setting over South LA, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "I won't let you down," Sophia promised the fresh earth and the headstone that read, "Marin Hale, Healer, Teacher, Grandmother. She helped everyone. I'll make you proud. I'll finish what we started together. I promise." The wind picked up, rustling through the cemetery trees, and for just a moment Sophia could have sworn she heard her grandmother's voice. "I know you will, child. I know you will." 2 months later, Sophia started medical school. She'd deferred enrollment by 1 semester to grieve, to process, to prepare herself mentally for the challenge ahead. Now, walking into the lecture hall on her first day, she felt both Grandma Morin's absence like a physical wound and her presence like armor. The other students looked young, confident, privileged. Most of them came from families of doctors, had gone to expensive undergraduate programs, had never worried about paying rent or working night shifts at warehouses. Sophia, at 23, was one of the older students, and she was definitely one of the poorest, despite the trust fund covering her tuition. The first month was brutal. Medical school was nothing like undergraduate courses. The volume of information was overwhelming, the pace relentless, the expectations impossibly high. Anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, all of it crammed into her brain, simultaneously tested, constantly leaving no room for weakness. Sophia failed her first anatomy exam, failed it badly, a 53%, when she needed 70 to pass. She sat in her car in the parking lot after getting her score back, staring at the red F on the paper, and felt her world crumbling. She'd promised Grandma Morin she'd succeed. She'd promised to honor the trust Richard had placed in her. She'd promised herself she'd prove that someone from South LA could become a doctor. And she was failing. Her phone rang. Dr. Clara Wells, who'd become a mentor over the past 4 years. "I heard about the exam," Dr. Wells said without preamble. "Come to my office. Now." Sophia drove to County General Hospital where Dr. Wells worked, feeling numb. Dr. Wells met her in her office, a small space crammed with medical texts and patient files, and Sophia noticed a small potted herb garden on the windowsill. "Sit," Dr. Wells commanded, pointing to a chair. Sophia sat. "You failed because you're trying to memorize everything like facts in a textbook," Dr. Wells said bluntly. "That doesn't work in anatomy. You need to see connections, systems, relationships. You need to think about the body the way your grandmother thought about it, as an interconnected network where everything affects everything else." "I don't understand," Sophia said quietly. Dr. Wells pulled out an anatomy textbook and opened it to the cardiovascular system. "Traditional anatomy teaching shows you the heart, the arteries, the veins all separate. You memorize each part, each valve, each vessel. It's disconnected information, but your grandmother didn't see bodies that way, did she?" Sophia shook her head. She talked about flow, about energy moving through channels, about how the heart wasn't just a pump, but part of a whole system that included breathing, digestion, emotion, everything. "Exactly," Dr. Wells said. "That's how you need to study anatomy. Not as separate parts, but as systems that flow together. The heart connects to the lungs, which connect to the blood, which connects to every organ and tissue. It's all one network. Study it that way, the way your grandmother would have understood it, and you'll never forget it." Something clicked in Sophia's mind. She'd been so focused on learning medicine the right way, the academic way, the modern way, that she'd forgotten the foundation Grandma Marin had given her. The understanding that bodies were living systems, not mechanical collections of parts. She passed the next anatomy exam with an 87, but medical school revealed something else to Sophia, something disturbing that she couldn't ignore. During her clinical rotations in the emergency department, she saw the same patients returning over and over. Mrs. Judith Thompson, a 78-year-old woman with heart failure, came in 5 times in 2 months. Each time, the doctor stabilized her prescribed expensive medications and sent her home. The 5th time, Sophia asked to speak with Mrs. Thompson privately. "Why do you keep coming back?" Sophia asked gently. Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with tears. "I can't afford all the medications they prescribe. I have to choose between pills and food, so I take half doses to make them last longer, and then I get sick again. And the diet they want me to follow, fresh vegetables, lean protein, no salt that costs money, I don't have. I live on canned soup and bread because that's what I can afford. I know it's making me worse, but I don't have a choice." Sophia felt rage burning in her chest. The medical system was failing this woman. Not because the doctors didn't know how to treat heart failure, but because they didn't understand or didn't care about the reality of her life. "What if I could help you?" Sophia asked. "Not with expensive medications, but with herbs and diet changes that won't cost much. My grandmother treated people with heart conditions for years using hawthorn berry tea and hibiscus tea, both of which are cheap and effective. Combined with some simple exercises you can do at home, you might feel better without needing as many prescriptions." Mrs. Thompson looked skeptical, but desperate. Your grandmother was Marin Hale. I knew her. She helped my sister years ago. She was, Sophia said, and she taught me everything she knew. Over the next 3 months, Sophia worked with Mrs. Thompson under the guidance of Dr. Hayes, one of the few doctors at the hospital who practiced integrative medicine. They gradually reduced her prescription medications while adding hawthorn berry and hibiscus teas, taught her simple breathing exercises, helped her find a community garden where she could get fresh vegetables cheaply. Mrs. Thompson didn't come back to the emergency department. Her heart function improved. She lost 15 pounds, her energy increased, and most importantly, she felt like she had control over her own health again instead of being a passive recipient of treatments she couldn't afford. When Sophia presented the case to her class, several professors were skeptical. One called it pseudoscience and suggested Sophia was playing with people's lives by promoting unproven remedies. Sophia stood her ground. Hawthorn berry has been used for heart conditions for centuries across multiple cultures. Recent studies show it improves cardiac function and reduces symptoms of heart failure. Hibiscus tea has been proven to lower blood pressure. These aren't unproven remedies. They're just not pharmaceutical drugs, so they don't get the same attention or respect. And more importantly, Mrs. Thompson can actually afford them, which means she'll actually use them consistently, which means they'll actually work. A perfect prescription that a patient can't afford or won't take is worthless. A simple remedy that a patient can access and will use is medicine. The professor had no response to that, but Dr. Hayes approached Sophia after class. You're right, and you handled that well. Have you heard of the National Integrative Medicine Institute? They offer research fellowships for medical students interested in studying traditional healing practices. You should apply. Sophia applied, and to her shock, received the fellowship. It came with funding to travel across the country documenting traditional healers and their methods, Navajo medicine men in Arizona, Vietnamese herbalists in Orange County, Appalachian folk healers in the Kentucky mountains, Creole root workers in Louisiana. She spent 2 years during medical school traveling whenever she had breaks, recording interviews, observing treatments, carefully documenting preparation methods and patient outcomes. She approached it all with scientific rigor, but also with deep respect, never claiming to be an expert, always presenting herself as a student learning from masters. The Navajo medicine man she interviewed, Thomas Begay, told her something that stayed with her. Western medicine is good at treating symptoms fast. Our medicine is good at treating the whole person slow. Both are necessary. Both are real medicine. The problem is when one claims to be the only truth. Sophia wrote that down and made it the foundation of her research thesis, Integrative Approaches to Chronic Disease Management, combining traditional healing practices with modern medicine. The thesis was controversial, celebrated by some professors and dismissed by others, but it got published in a major medical journal, and suddenly Sophia wasn't just a medical student from South LA anymore. She was a voice advocating for a more comprehensive approach to healthcare, one that honored traditional knowledge while embracing modern science. During her final year of medical school, Richard Langford called her. She hadn't heard from him in months. They'd maintained occasional contact, checking in on each other, but both had been busy with their respective lives. I want to build something, Richard said without preamble. Something that actually changes how healthcare works in underserved communities. I've been thinking about it for years, and I'm finally ready to act. I want your input. Can we meet? They met at a coffee shop in South LA, neutral territory, far from either of their usual worlds. Richard looked older now, some gray in his hair, but his eyes were sharp and focused. I want to create a community health center, Richard said. One that combines traditional and modern medicine, that serves people regardless of their ability to pay, that treats patients with dignity and respect. I want to name it after your grandmother, the Marin Hale Community Health Center, and I want you to run it after you finish your residency. Sophia stared at him. That's years away. I still have residency to complete. I know, Richard said, but good things take time. I'll start the process now, buying land, hiring architects, building the facility. By the time you're ready to lead it, it'll be ready for you. What do you think? Sophia thought about Grandma Moran, about the promise she'd made at the gravesite about Mrs. Thompson and all the other patients caught between two worlds, too poor for adequate modern care, too disconnected from their traditional knowledge to heal themselves. I think it's exactly what needs to exist, Sophia said. But it can't just be a clinic. It needs to be a teaching center too, a place where medical students learn to integrate different approaches, a place where traditional healers and modern doctors can share knowledge as equals. Richard smiled. Then that's what we'll build. 4 years later, Dr. Sophia Hale finished her residency in family medicine with additional training in integrative approaches. She was 31 years old, had published 15 papers on traditional medicine, and was ready to return to South LA to open the doors of the Maureen Hale Community Health Center. The building stood on a corner lot that had been vacant for 20 years, transformed into a beautiful facility that combined modern medical equipment with spaces designed for traditional healing. There were exam rooms with state-of-the-art diagnostic tools. There was a pharmacy stocked with both prescription medications and carefully sourced herbal remedies. There was a rooftop garden growing medicinal herbs, the same ones Grandma Morin had used. There was a teaching kitchen where nutritionists taught people how to cook healthy food on a budget. And there was a healing circle, a round room with comfortable seating where traditional healers and modern doctors could sit together as equals, sharing knowledge and learning from each other. On opening day, the line of patients wrapped around the block. People who'd known Grandma Moran, people who'd heard about Sophia's work, people who were desperate for healthcare they could afford, and doctors who would actually listen to them. Richard and Harrison Langford came to the opening. Harrison was 90 now, moving slowly but still sharp, still alive 11 years after Sophia had saved him with herbs and pressure points. "This is what your grandmother envisioned," Harrison said to Sophia as they stood in the lobby watching people stream through the doors. "A place where healing belongs to everyone." Sophia looked around at the center that bore her grandmother's name at the patients being greeted with respect and kindness at the blend of traditional and modern medicine finally working together, and felt something she hadn't felt since Grandma Moran died. Peace. "We're just getting started," Sophia said. The Maureen Hale Community Health Center transformed South LA in ways Sophia hadn't imagined. Within the first year, they served over 3,000 patients. People who'd gone years without seeing a doctor because they couldn't afford it. People who'd been dismissed by emergency rooms for non-urgent conditions that were slowly killing them. People who needed someone to see them as human beings, not just case numbers or insurance claims. Sophia worked 14-hour days, seeing patients, training new staff, developing protocols that integrated traditional remedies with modern treatments. Every evening, she climbed to the rooftop garden where Grandma Morin's herbs grew thick and fragrant, and she felt her grandmother's presence in the warm earth and green leaves. The center wasn't just about treating illness. It was about rebuilding trust between a community and a healthcare system that had failed them for generations. Sophia insisted that every doctor and nurse spend time listening before prescribing, understanding each patient's life circumstances before recommending treatments they couldn't afford or maintain. Mrs. Thompson, now 83, volunteered at the center 3 days a week, greeting patients and sharing her own story of healing. "Dr. Sophia saved my life," she'd tell anyone who'd listen. Not with expensive drugs, but with respect and knowledge that actually worked for someone like me. 5 years after opening the center, had expanded twice, hired 30 staff members, and trained over 100 medical students in integrative approaches. Sophia published a book documenting the center's methods and outcomes, proving statistically that their model reduced hospital readmissions by 60% and improved patient satisfaction scores beyond any traditional clinic in the area. That's when Richard called again. "My father wants to see you," Richard said. His voice was different, heavier, sadder. "He doesn't have much time left. He's asking for you specifically." Sophia drove to the Langford mansion the next day, her old feelings of not belonging long replaced by a quiet confidence. She'd earned her place in any room through years of hard work and proven results. The mansion looked the same, imposing, beautiful, surrounded by perfectly manicured grounds, but she no longer felt intimidated by it. Turner, the security guard who'd tried to stop her 12 years ago, opened the door with a warm smile. "Dr. Hale," he said respectfully, "Mr. Langford is waiting for you in the garden." She found Harrison in a wheelchair under a massive oak tree wrapped in blankets despite the mild California weather. He was 95 now, his body finally giving out after years borrowed from death. But his eyes were still clear, still sharp, still fully present. "Sophia," he said, his voice weak but warm. "Thank you for coming." She pulled up a chair beside him, taking his thin hand in hers. "Of course I came. Your family." Harrison smiled at that. "Family." Yes. The girl who saved my life 12 years ago with herbs and courage has become family. Life is strange and beautiful, isn't it? It is, Sophia agreed. I'm dying, Harrison said bluntly. My doctors give me a few weeks, maybe a month. My body is shutting down, and unlike last time, there's no poison to remove, no simple fix. It's just time. I'm 95. I've lived a full life. I'm ready. Sophia felt tears pricking her eyes, but didn't let them fall. What can I do for you? I want to die peacefully, Harrison said. Not in a hospital hooked to machines. Here in my garden with dignity. Richard wants to fight it, wants to try every treatment, but I'm asking you to help him understand. Help him let me go the way your grandmother went, with grace. Sophia nodded slowly. I'll talk to him. There's something else, Harrison continued. He gestured to Richard, who'd been standing quietly nearby. Richard approached with a folder. My father revised his will, Richard said, his voice tight with emotion. He's leaving a substantial amount to expand your work. Harrison's hand tightened slightly on Sophia's. $70 million, he said, for the Marine Hale Centers plural. I want you to replicate what you've built in South LA across the country, South Chicago, East Detroit, South Bronx, rural Mississippi, the Navajo Nation, everywhere that people are forgotten by the healthcare system. I want centers that honor your grandmother's legacy and your vision. Sophia couldn't speak. $70 million, enough to change thousands of lives, to train hundreds of doctors to prove that integrative medicine worked not just in one neighborhood but everywhere. Why? She finally managed. Because 12 years ago I learned that true wealth isn't money, Harrison said simply. It's knowledge, compassion, and the courage to help others. You have all three. You've proven what's possible. Now I'm giving you the resources to prove it on a larger scale. The only conditions are these: keep the mission pure, never chase profit over people, and continue seeing patients yourself. Don't become an administrator so removed from the work that you forget why it matters. I promise, Sophia said, tears finally falling. I promise I'll honor this gift the way you honored what I did for you. Harrison smiled. I know you will. That's why I chose you. They talked for another hour about the future, about Harrison's memories of learning about herbs from Grandma Marie, about how strange and wonderful it was that a delivery girl on a bicycle had changed the trajectory of so many lives. As the sun began to set, Harrison grew tired. Will you come back? He asked Sophia. In the coming weeks, I'd like to see you again before the end. As often as you want, Sophia promised. She visited 3 times a week for the next month. They talked about life and death, about legacy and meaning, about the privilege of dying peacefully when you're ready. Richard gradually came to accept his father's decision, helped by Sophia's gentle explanations about dignity and choice in honoring someone's wishes about their own body. Harrison Langford died on a Tuesday morning in his garden, with Richard holding one hand and Sophia holding the other. His last words were, "Thank you for giving me 12 extra years. Thank you for teaching an old man that there's always more to learn." The funeral was enormous: business leaders, politicians, celebrities, but Sophia noticed that Richard had also invited patients from the Marine Hale Center. Mrs. Thompson sat in the front row, crying for a man she'd never met, but whose generosity had made her healing possible. After the service, Richard showed Sophia something he'd been working on. In the garden where Harrison had died, workers were installing a bronze sculpture. It showed 2 figures sitting at a kitchen table, heads bent together over bundles of herbs. The details were exquisite: the weathered hands, the focused expressions, the sense of knowledge being shared. The plaque at the base read, "Marin Hale and Harrison Langford, 2 people from different worlds who together changed how we heal." He designed it himself, Richard said quietly. Spent his last months working with the sculptor to get every detail right. He wanted people to understand that the connection between your grandmother and our family wasn't about charity or obligation. It was about mutual respect, about recognizing that wisdom exists everywhere if you're humble enough to see it. Sophia traced her fingers over the bronze version of her grandmother's face, rendered with such care and accuracy that she could almost hear Grandma Morin's voice. "See, child, I told you you'd do great things." 20 years after Sophia had pedaled her bicycle up to the Langford mansion with cold coffee and desperate courage, she stood on a stage at the National Healthcare Innovation Conference. The auditorium held 2,000 people: doctors, researchers, policymakers, healthcare administrators. Behind her, a screen displayed a map of the United States dotted with 60 red markers, 60 Marine Hale community health centers serving over 500,000 patients annually. But Sophia wasn't the one speaking. She stood to the side, watching Dr. Maya Williams take the podium. Maya had been 8 years old when she'd given Sophia a small potted mint plant from her grandmother's garden, a thank you gift, after Sophia had helped her grandmother with chronic migraines. Now, she was 38, the national director of the Marine Hale Network, brilliant and passionate, and carrying forward everything Sophia had built. It all started because one woman made a choice. Maya said, her voice strong and clear. Sophia Hale was 19 years old, exhausted from working all night delivering coffee to pay her rent. She heard someone screaming in a mansion where she didn't belong, and she made the choice to help anyway. She risked her job, her safety, her dignity, because her grandmother had taught her that healing belongs to everyone. The audience was silent, listening intently. That choice saved one man's life, but it did more than that. It proved that traditional knowledge and modern medicine aren't enemies, they're partners. It showed that the most sophisticated healthcare in the world means nothing if patients can't access it, afford it, or trust the people providing it. And it demonstrated that the people who need healing most are often the ones the system ignores. Maya clicked to the next slide showing the rooftop garden of the original South LA Center herbs growing thick and green in neat rows. We've now treated over 3 million patients across 60 centers. Our model has been adopted by 23 medical schools. Our patient outcomes exceed national averages for chronic disease management. Our costs are 40% lower than traditional clinics because we prevent problems instead of just treating emergencies. And most importantly, our patients feel seen, heard, and respected, something that can't be measured in statistics but makes all the difference in healing. Another slide, this one showing patients of all ages and backgrounds in the healing circles, traditional healers and modern doctors sitting together sharing knowledge. We're expanding to 75 centers next year, including our first international location in rural Mexico. We're training a new generation of doctors who understand that healing is about the whole person, body, mind, spirit community. We're proving every single day that Marine Hale's vision wasn't just a dream, it's the future of healthcare. The audience erupted in applause. Maya stepped back from the podium and gestured to Sophia. None of this would exist without Dr. Sophia Hale, who had the courage to knock on a door. She didn't belong behind the wisdom to trust what her grandmother taught her and the dedication to spend the last 20 years building something that will outlast all of us. Sophia walked to the podium feeling the weight of 2 decades, the memory of Grandma Morin's voice, the faces of thousands of patients she'd treated. She was 51 now, her hair showing gray at the temples, her hands marked by years of work, but her eyes were still bright with purpose. "I'm going to tell you the truth," Sophia said, her voice carrying to the back of the auditorium. "I was terrified that morning. I thought those security guards would throw me out. I thought those doctors would laugh at me, and some of them did. I thought I'd fail, that my grandmother's remedies wouldn't work, that I'd just be embarrassed and lose my job. But I did it anyway because being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." She paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. So many young doctors, so many people who wanted to make a difference. Everything we've built, every center, every life saved every patient who finally got the care they deserved, started with one simple idea. Healing belongs to everyone, not just people with money, not just people with insurance, not just people who speak English or have transportation or know how to navigate complex medical systems. Everyone. And when we commit to that principle, when we truly see every patient as a whole person deserving of dignity and respect, medicine becomes what it's supposed to be. Not a business, not a privilege, a human right. The applause was thunderous. Sophia let it wash over her, thinking about how impossible this would have seemed 20 years ago. A delivery girl on a broken bike, dreaming of medical school, grieving her grandmother, scared she wasn't smart enough or strong enough to survive. After the conference, Sophia returned to the original South LA Center. She still saw patients there 2 days a week, keeping her promise to Harrison, staying connected to why the work mattered. Today was Rooftop Garden Day, her favorite when she could work in the soil where Grandma Morin's herbs still grew, propagated, and replanted countless times, but still descended from those original seeds. Mrs. Thompson found her there, moving slowly with a walker now, but still volunteering, still alive at 93, when doctors had given her months to live 20 years ago. "Dr. Sophia," Mrs. Thompson called. "There's someone here to see you." A young girl stood in the doorway to the rooftop, maybe 19 years old, thin and nervous, holding a canvas bag. She looked exactly like Sophia had looked 2 decades ago, scared but determined, poor but proud, carrying knowledge she didn't know if anyone would respect. "Dr. Hale," the girl said, "my name is Rose Martinez. My grandmother is a curandera, a traditional healer in our neighborhood. She's been teaching me since I was little. I want to be a doctor, but I don't know if I can afford school, and I don't know if anyone will take me seriously, and I—" She stopped, overwhelmed. Sophia smiled, seeing herself in this girl's desperate hope, the circle continuing the legacy, passing forward to another generation. "Come sit with me," Sophia said, gesturing to the garden bench. "Tell me about your grandmother's remedies. Tell me what you know. And then let's talk about how we're going to get you into medical school." Rose's face lit up with the same expression Sophia had worn when Richard had made his offer, disbelief mixed with desperate hope. As they talked, Sophia looked out over South LA, the neighborhood where she'd grown up and struggled and learned to heal. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, the same colors that had surrounded her at Grandma Morin's grave when she'd made her promise. A promise kept, a legacy established, a future secured. Sophia heard her grandmother's voice on the wind, as clear as if she were standing right there. "You did good, child. You did real good. Now watch what this next generation builds on the foundation you gave them." Sophia smiled, put her arm around Rose's shoulders, and said, "Let me tell you about a woman named Marion Hale, and about the day I decided to knock on a door I didn't belong behind." The story would continue. The healing would continue. The legacy of compassion and courage would pass to new hands, new hearts, new generations who understood that medicine wasn't about prestige or profit. It was about serving humanity with everything you had. And it had all started with a 19-year-old delivery girl on a bicycle who'd heard someone screaming and chosen to help.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.